Welcome to Hospitality Talks. This is Sam-Erik, and I'm with my co-host Abid, and we have another great show for you. And this time we are joined by global hoteliers. We have hoteliers from almost my neighbor from Copenhagen. We have from Mexico, and then we're from USA, from New York. So everyone, all warm welcome. And before we start, I just want to hand over this to Abid. But before that, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to us if it's your first time you're viewing us. And in order for you to see or be notified in the future, just press the notification bell and you're on. And if you now happen to join us on LinkedIn Live and you said, well, what is this show? Well, this is Hospitality Talks. And if you'd like to see more of our episodes, then just follow the Sam-Erik Ruttmann personal profile and we are always good to go. So let's get started. And this is a great show. I'm really looking forward to have a vivid discussion with some great general managers. So let's go over. So Abid, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sam, and welcome everybody to Hospitality Talks. Today, our panelists include general managers, so the perspective is going to be boots on the ground as we try to reopen our hotels. There are lots of lessons to be learned as we open our hotels back up to welcome the guests. We will hear firsthand as to how the operations is going to be different. As Sam said, this is being multicasted on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. We appreciate any questions that you might have, and we will continue to pose those questions to our panelists. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Peter Pederson, who's the Managing Director of Villa Copenhagen. Peter, welcome to Hospitality Talks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Abid and Sam-Erik. It's great to be here, and thank you. It's an honor to be invited to join these talks.
Well, we're glad that you were able to join us. I know Europe is starting to come out of it. Most of Europe, the number of cases, I understand, are going down. But unlike your neighbor, Sweden, Denmark did have some stay-at-home guidance. So tell us just a little bit about what the current state of affairs is, Peter.
Well, I think first of all, I think our government reacted very fast. They looked south in Europe and saw what was happening and reacted very, very rapidly early March here. I think for all of us at that point, we were kind of shocked with what was happening and couldn't really believe it. However, we very quickly got an idea of how severe it was, and I don't think that we are out of it yet, by no means. But casualties or death numbers have been relatively low, I guess, for our country. So the measures have indeed helped that part of it. Economic effects have been great to our country, to our industry, not the least. Copenhagen is looking at a summer season where we are normally depending on a traffic of 60% international travelers. Throughout the summer, maybe 200 cruise liners are coming here and actually using Copenhagen as their hub, meaning they are having room nights or hotel nights attached to that turnaround for the cruise liners. So just that alone is around 500,000 room nights lost for Copenhagen for this summer, as we are not going to see any cruise lines whatsoever. Of course, traffic in our Copenhagen airport, which is probably used to be the hub of Scandinavia, is also down to next to nothing. And therefore, the expectations for this summer is very much focused on the Danish traveler. And there's only 5 million of us, or 5.5, and they might not all want to come to Copenhagen. And then we are eagerly watching, of course, the discussions in our neighboring countries, Sweden, Norway, and Germany, because they are great visitors to our hotels and our tourist attractions throughout the summer normally. But their political discussions as opposed to how to what extent they're opening is watched from here with great interest, as you can imagine.
Thank you for that, Peter. I'm sure until the international borders open, most of the countries and most of the travel is going to be domestic in nature. So thanks for that update. Now, Peter, though all of us that are going to try to reopen our resorts, it's much like an opening. Now, you have been in a pre-opening stage. You were about to open when this pandemic hit. So tell us how the project is progressing and if there are any changes anticipated in this project.
Well, absolutely. I mean, back in March, we were aiming at an April 1st opening. When we were hit by Corona, that was then postponed to May 14th. And here we are looking at July 1st. The project have, of course, had the craftsmen from all over Europe. We've had materials coming in, and they have been delayed or could not travel here, and so on and so forth. So hence this delay on the construction. At the same time, as I said before, the city have been on a lockdown, and therefore there's been very little tourism or corporate tourism or anything like that. So you can say that it wasn't that big of a loss maybe for an opening hotel, but we did lose a lot of business on the books for April, May, June, which was the end of the spring MICE season for Copenhagen. And to the project, of course, we have tried to look at facilities that we're offering, the guest journey. We're trying to make it maybe more tech heavy than what it was before, based on the anticipation that the guest would not like to touch other devices than maybe their own and so forth, interact a little bit less up close with front office staff and so on. So we're trying to look at those bits and pieces. But of course, we've been in the design process and closed that long time ago. So the changes that we are bringing on board now are not necessarily popular with the builders, as you can imagine.
Absolutely. Any minor changes during the construction process, it delays it, it's additional cost, but quite candidly, it'll still be better than to do it now versus open the hotels and then have to do it. Thanks for that update. Now, this Villa Copenhagen is going to be a luxury positioned hotel. What has your focus been, Peter, during this pandemic while you're trying to go through the opening processes? Or what are you mostly focused on?
Well, honestly, I've been very focused on handling this situation from a staffing perspective, from a governmental support perspective, applying for those packages available for us not to drag on the heavy payroll that you normally collect right before the opening. So we had some various opportunities to join some of those packages, and navigating that whole territory has not been easy, because those support packages have also changed in legal lease as we're going on, and our demands for staff have of course changed dramatically with the outlook of the balance of the year having changed so much financially. So therefore we've had to reevaluate the whole organizational setup. Which outlets are we going to operate from the outset, which can wait to the autumn months, and so on. So that has been occupying my time. And then, of course, even more so, I think we've managed to build up quite some great marketing of Villa Copenhagen in Copenhagen and even abroad. And we've tried to maintain that by giving online interviews to interested travel journals and travel tourists, journalists, basically all over the world. The media here have had a great interest in this property, and why are you delayed, and how long do you think, and all that. And then the social media have been, of course, our vehicle for keeping up momentum on all of that, and staying state of mind, or staying top of mind for the audience that we want to communicate with within Copenhagen and within Scandinavia. And having said that, we've then also focused our marketing, our SoMe marketing, a lot on the local market over the last 6 weeks, as opposed to just blasting it out in the world.
Peter, certainly your sales and marketing effort, you mentioned that you keeping in touch with the clients digitally. How about the associates? And I'll turn it over to Sam in a bit, but I'm sure you were in the midst of bringing your team on board and all that has been delayed. Tell us what that process has been like and how have you stayed in touch with the potential associates that you would bring on board once you get going with the opening?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was on the S train going back to my home on March 13th when our government closed the borders, and that day we had just completed the first adjustment on the organization, and then it was really outspoken that if you could work from home, you should do so, and you should not be it should be less than 10 people together, and all these measures that you've seen in various forms and shapes all over the world. So therefore, that night or that evening, I was on similar talks like what we have here with my executive team, and we decided to stay and work from home, and we did. And thank God we had engaged an app that we work with for communicating with the staff all together in a modern fashion. So we have engaged with a company developing an app where we can do podcasts, where we can do small videos, where we can do messages, we can make groups and all that. And we make really frequent updates on that media and send out, and we'll encourage them to share what they've been doing and so on. And with the XCOM team that I have, I made sure to stay in daily contact with all of them on a one-to-one basis, gather them in a call like this every second day. So and then I took my bike and went down and had have a look at the site, and so I had fresh updates for them from the building site, and again conveyed them to the management group of people that I have, but also to the staff members who were sitting at home waiting for us to get going again. So that has been some of the things we've been doing. There was some initiative from a department head leader who made a after work kind of aperitivo or drink together online one Friday afternoon. We've had certain competitions and we've had video takes where somebody had brought to the side their iPhone and made video casting from there and so on. So we've tried to engage our people and the spirit, although everybody was going through his own personal drama, so to speak, with having to take care of homeschooling and whatnot with the family at the same time.
Well, look, engagement is critical at the best at times, but I think right now, because we are all physically apart, it presents a bigger challenge to make sure that we stay engaged. Thanks for that. Let me turn it over to Sam.
Yes, Peter. I was just listening to your answers here, and I'm just curious. I have two questions. One is relating to, since you don't have I don't know if you have, but I assume you don't have a lot of data because you haven't opened the hotel yet. So how do you rely on, are you going to expecting with your source of business coming for this after you open up? What are your sort of thoughts on where are your customers going to come from? How are they going to book your hotel?
Well, at the moment, as most of our seasonal offers that we have been doubling up basically, or that we have been really blasting out because the situation is what it is in Copenhagen, but also because we have focused it all on the national market firsthand, so the Danish nationals, the Danish vacationers. Therefore, we've been quite successful in turning that business through our own channel, through our own website, as opposed to the OTAs. So I think that's positive. We have spent some marketing money, of course, on Google sponsorships and Instagram and all that, but that have also given us quite some momentum there. So certainly, I can say to 99% they're Danish clients or foreigners living in Denmark. For the time being, now we are praying that the Norwegians will open up the borders soon, because they are known to have a good buying power in Denmark over the summer.
Good. So, and then just looking forward, how do you, I mean, because the corona or the COVID-19 situation has been unprecedented for everyone, and it seems to me that you made some different choices than you would have done if things would have if you had opened earlier. So how has this period of, if you want to call it Corona, helped you to make the right choices? You mentioned the app, for instance, which is I'm not sure, was that something you had already planned, or was it something that you now had to think about the different way of approaching? But just share about the different choices you are making now because of that you are in the COVID-19 period and then preparing for the opening.
Well, I mean, as we're approaching summer, of course, again, marketing and segmentation, we've been focused a lot on families. We've been focused a lot on showing the things we have that would go well for a family. We have packaged up deals with Tivoli, which is across the street from us. We have a swimming pool, which we've been showing which is quite unique, a rooftop swimming pool for a downtown hotel in Copenhagen. So we've been looking at displaying those things a lot. And as for the app, we actually had that already, and it just showed to be very, very handy in that situation that we were in. And of course, then we've seen the power of Google Hangout and Skype meetings and Zoom and Teams and so on, and have tried to adapt to that. And we've also seen that, you know, when you have a papagayo at the background that is barking, or a dog or a kid or something, that has become totally that's fine. Nobody's complaining. That's everybody has the same situation, you know. So I think we've been a bit more. How can I say? You've been more rounded around the corners. Yeah. I'm not saying lowering your standards, but you're a bit more easygoing, I think. And the clients and the requests that we have, and we do see things coming in the market also, are of course looking. So what can we do, and how can the people and the guests move around in the house to maybe not stand too close, and could we suggest maybe a larger room and things like this. So you're starting to look at your property in a different way. If you can't fill it with traditional hotel guests, what then? Could you sell it or rent it out long term for office space? We will have a retail unit also that is opening out to the street. We will have a bakery that is opening out to the streets. Under any normal circumstances, I would probably close these two down. But now this is an extra opportunity to open a revenue stream that is not so depending on hotel guests. And that's what we are focusing on instead, finding ways and revenue streams that are a bit out of the box to what you would normally expect, because I do think that longer term, short, medium term, maybe, you know, some of the big revenue streams that we are looking at from the MICE segment and you know, they would partly be suffering because people are doing what we are doing just right now to a larger extent than before.
When you mentioned the MICE business, so you, I mean, of course, it's very difficult to look at the forecasting these things, but what are you aiming at? Where do you expect that your conference business might return? Is the whole year a wipe off, or do you expect something maybe during this year if you are able to open up in July? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts have been that we lost everything from April, May, June. July there wasn't anything because there's not much MICE in Copenhagen in July. Yeah. and some was cancelled straight off, and some was postponed to September, October. Now I think that was partly because the companies who have booked it, they want to gain time to think more about what can they do. And as and I'm sure you will agree, we all learn every day that this Corona or COVID-19 situation progresses. We all know a little bit more. So I expect some of that business that has been moved, let's say 90 days later, or maybe 120 days later, I expect some of that to be cancelled also, especially if it's international based, unfortunately. So I don't see that. I see that we will make some gains and some improvements in 21 again. And I'm not sure we can come back to anything we can call normal. New normal is a term we see a lot now. And I think you're into 22 before you maybe will reach some levels like what you had before. Copenhagen is a bit a special case because we were preparing for and getting a huge increase in capacity last year and this year, and we are one of those. One project was just cancelled today with 290 rooms, so I guess for some of us that's good news. But of course, as you can imagine, that heavy increase in capacity, 40% in increase in capacity over 3 years in Copenhagen, we are talking room inventory, is quite a lot. And that was demanding, that situation would demand a heavy growth in order for us to sustain just normal pre-COVID-19 situation. Now we have the COVID and we have a huge part of that capacity still coming. So of course that's a bit of a perfect storm for Copenhagen.
Yeah. I have some questions coming from YouTube, but maybe I'll address them later on because it deals with. I was leading into the conference business, but I think that's not the imminent concern for you. I mean, in the sense that you might take your time to look at what kind of standards you need to put in place for the time when you're starting to book, or are you already thinking about what kind of standards for where it's hygiene, safety, whether it's seating arrangements or whatnot that you will put in place or promote, in fact, in order to create a discussion and see what the requirements are from the meeting organizers?
Yeah, I think everybody will expect from a 5-star hotel that we have top-notch hygiene factors and hygiene standards in every corner of the business, of course. So I don't think that you need to go out and say now we are wiping off this table 3 times as opposed to 2 times and all that. Everybody will expect that from you in any case. And for the meeting space itself, of course we are listening to the requirements of the clients, but we are also listening to the guidelines of our government and what is comme il faut. But that also changes all the time because we are opening up. So 2 meter became 1 meter in Denmark, and 10 persons became 30, and so on. And we're waiting for that to become 50 and 500 and so on. And those are the milestones that will make a difference for us.
Yeah.
I think really, yeah.
I mean, we have also here in Helsinki that the government decided you can only serve liquor until 10 o'clock because after 10 o'clock, what will happen? So now they say, no, we're going to extend it till 11 o'clock because people got very upset that the restaurants will not be able to keep open a little bit later. So I think it's changing week by week for us, and I think you might have the similar situation yourself.
Well, as you know, us in Denmark, we are a bit more loose on the alcohol than what you are in the neighboring Scandinavian countries. So we haven't been discussing that much.
That's a very Finnish thing.
But having said that, nightclubs are not supposed to operate here yet, and bars that turns into a nightclubby atmosphere late night, they are having a visit from the police. So yeah, it is restricted quite. They are looking at these things still here. So let's see.
Okay, very good. All right, I think I've been. Thank you very much. I've been taking a little bit more than I expected, but since I'm an old GM, I get sort of passionate about. I probably could talk many hours about these things, but let's get back to Abid, and maybe you have some additional angle you want to bring up here.
Peter, guest rooms, I guess, are easier to attend to, and cleanliness issues will be dealt with. Talk a little bit about the public areas, particularly your food and beverage offerings. How do you see that evolve, and how do you see that change?
Well, we had planned for a brasserie type of restaurant where you share food. And we have actually planned for that concept to be rolled into our meeting and the banqueting spaces as well. Now, I think sharing food, Chinese family style or Italian family style or whichever way you want to put it, is great when you sit at a table with 3 or 4 people that you know. But if you're in a banquet environment or in a meeting environment, then it's not that convenient under these current circumstances. Therefore, we are looking at that as we speak to see what are the kind of way to portion food, way to serve it in a safe manner, and so forth. And of course, the big elephant in the room is the breakfast serving for breakfast guests in a summer hotel. Let's say over the summer, if we had 300 rooms occupied or more coming in with families and kids and all this. So we are looking at alternative to the traditional buffet breakfast and even on the room service. Could we have a more deliver it more in a Starbucks way or more easy than your traditional preparation of a 5-star room service? So these are some of the things and the considerations that we are looking at as we speak. And I don't have all the answers to that right now, but these are some of the shall we say challenges that we have in finding something that we find is appropriate for both guest expectations and what is reasonable within the hygienic restrictions we have and expectations.
Well, one last question, and then we'll bring our next guest on. This issue is bigger than a single hotel, a single city, one country, but because it's all about gaining consumer confidence. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Visitor Bureau, Visit Denmark or Visit Copenhagen, how they are interacting with hoteliers and with the traveling public to gain that consumer confidence and attract people back into the destination?
Well, needless to say that wonderful Copenhagen, which the association is called here, have also turned their focus to the Danish market temporarily. But still there, Visit Denmark, our national tourism marketing arm, are of course still busy in promoting all of us abroad. Maybe more so in Scandinavia, where we suspect, and Germany, where we suspect the borders will open soon. And they are really happy to engage with us, and we are happy to support with the products we have and with the storytelling we have. And Villa Copenhagen have been a great example of that case, because we are not the regular type of chain hotel. We have a bit more of our own storytelling, which they have been able to tap into. So they've been treating us as a new attraction to Copenhagen, which we are very grateful for, of course.
Terrific. You were talking about earlier how accepting people are when these calls are being done. If there is a child in the background dancing or crying, for that matter, how do you think that the hotel guest behavior would change? I know typically in hotels, cleaning was done off hours. Do you think they would want to see somebody cleaning constantly when they're in public areas?
Perhaps it's a bit like security, if it's very visible, then at least some parts of the world you think it's there then. And I think, there will be some truth to that also. It's probably okay to pass the lobby with a maid trolley at 10 o'clock in the morning, where before we would have said, "What is she doing here now?" And so I think so. I think you can showcase a little bit that you are, and also educate maybe some of the cleaning staffers on what are the products and having a little bit of a background how come or why this particular product is a bit more disinfecting than the one we used to use and so on, so that they are equipped or dressed to a little conversation on hygiene with the guests. I think that's very appropriate. To look at that.
We all going to be learning as we go along, and being nimble is the name of the game. So thank you so much, Peter. Thanks for joining us. Please stick around, because we will bring you back. There are lots of other questions. But at this point, I would like to welcome our next guest, Rocco Bova, who's the general manager of Chable Resort in Mexico. Welcome to Hospitality Talks, Rocco.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and all the very best to Peter and his opening soon. Finger crossed for you.
Rocco, unlike city center location, you are involved with a sprawling resort, a resort that almost is perfect for physical distancing. Tell us a little bit about what is going on in preparation of opening of the resort?
Well, we are set over 750 acres of land, so certainly we have enough of the space for each individual guest. We are a villa-only resort, so that also helps in terms of not staying in the same building. And we also have a huge spa, which is over 5,000 square meters with a lot of open air. So I think that the hotel is perfect, really for a post-COVID stay. One of the advantages of staying in the jungle as well is also giving us, the contact with nature and lots of greens and gardens and trees. So people really, really need that now after being locked in their house for so long, in four walls and cement, concrete, which is not really, even from a mental point of view, is not really the best way. So I think we will have probably a much easier return to business, to normal or some kind of normal business than most hotels, particularly city hotels.
Rocco, what has been government guidance relative to reopening, and are there standards that American government is asking all the hotels to abide by?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to ask you to cross your finger for me to now, because today we should get actually the news from the government, because here we are regulated by the federal government, like in the United States, and then the state government. So we are in the state of Yucatan. So the federal government already issued generic guidelines for all businesses. And today, the state of Yucatan will share the guidelines for tourism to all of us. So I really look forward to that. They won't be so different from what everybody else is doing. So, I mean, the generic wearing gloves, mask, and probably a face shield, this will be a standard now. I think that everybody will need to live with this at least for the next 2-3 months. And then eventually, slowly regress to normality at some point. I hope that if there is no return of the virus in the winter, like everybody is talking about, that then maybe by the last quarter of the year, we should be able to go back to normal and maybe only use a face mask, but no gowns and face shield. And, that looks really horrible. I don't even know how we will be able to provide a warm, hospitable experience to our guests, wearing stuff like we are in a biological war.
Well, there's a trick about smiling with your eyes, and I think that's a skill that everybody has to pick up on.
Sure.
That is so true, that these protective gear and masks and gloves, they are counterintuitive to what hospitality has done. We are into shaking hands, giving people hugs, and having a drink with them. But all of a sudden, this pandemic is forcing physical distance. And I'll turn it over to Sam in a second. But tell us a little bit about your market recovery trends. Which feeder markets do you think will come back sooner than later? For a luxury resort that is spread out over such a huge land, we would think that people would be absolutely ready to come and visit you.
In fact, Abid, you won't believe it, but I get messages through various medias every single day from all our guests or repeat guests or travel agencies that they're really eager to travel. No matter what, if there is a flight, they will come. So we were lucky that since the opening, we always had the majority of our markets being from Mexico. So our national market is still number one. And it's been number one since the opening. It's been decreasing over time. We started with really like 95% local market, and then 80, and then 70, and now more recent, we were more in the 50-55%. But we are very confident that we will get back to the local market initially, and we'll probably start again seeing more Mexican who believe it or not, they actually have the buying power. They can stay in luxury hotels. Mexican, they travel all over the world. They go and stay in some of the best resorts, and they really enjoy life. They really enjoy a good drink, a good meal. They like the spa. So it's a really good customer. It's really a good market. And yes, there are many hotels in Mexico, but not many in the conditions where we are now. So, with large space, open air, gardens and nature. So there are very few hotels in the country. I mean, not very few, probably I would say maybe 30 or so like ours. So they're not a lot. And we have about 140 million people in Mexico. So we look forward to welcome back our main market, which is the national market. And as far as the international market, I think this will need to wait a little bit longer. The North American will be the first to come back because they love Mexico and it's very close. It's only within 3-4 hours maximum of distance, maybe from Canada side. And they've been always the main feeder market for Mexico for many reasons. And we think that next 2 months or 3 months maximum, the North American market will come. For the European or any other international market, I think we need to wait until the last quarter of the year.
Fair enough. And last question for me before I turn it over to Sam. You are involved with a luxury resort. How do you provide this luxury personalized service that we've all gotten to expect from hotels like yourself while we live with COVID-19?
Well, we have looked at different ways of reviewing our experiences, and to be frank, it's so impossible. It's so impossible to change dramatically the way we provide the service to our guests. It's just really very difficult. So instead of reviewing the way we provide the service, instead we are reviewing how many interactions we have throughout this, how many touch points. So we're trying to reduce the touch point and still using distance, physical distance, because this is required by law, and provide the same experience, but by doing less touch point and involving less people in the same experience. Because honestly, I'll give you an example. I mean, for example, one of our experience in-house that we do in-house, we do bee farming. And as a part of one of the many experiences that we have is a bike route, which is called the green route. And we touch a different part of the resort where we have our farm, where we farm our vegetables. Then we have our greens where we play golf. Then we have another area where we do the bee farming. And so in each of the touch point, there is always a person. So I cannot skip any of the touch point. It's not possible to cycle by the golf course and say, oh, this is our golf course, and then we continue. I cannot do that. It's so in their face. But what I can do is limit the contact or the interaction with other team members and limiting that rather than diminishing the experience that we want to give to our guests.
It will be a challenge. It'll be a challenge how the industry adapts, as well as how our travelers adapt their expectations. Thank you for that. Sam, over to you, please.
Yes, well, I would have about 1,000 questions, but I try to limit myself to few because I'm quite very interested about your area and your destination. And judging from the website that you have, it's I think a number of hotels can learn something about putting a
we can do it. We can do it offline another day, yeah. Sam-Erik, with much pleasure.
Your staff, just interested, curious about your staffing. Your staff are from the local villages, or because I'm not familiar with your destination? Are you majority of your staff from the local villages, and how have you handled it with them? Did you have when you were closed or were not able to operate?
That is correct. 5 years ago, Yucatan was not even heard in the world. And suddenly everybody knows about Yucatan now. Even as far as China is concerned, we also have some Chinese guests that they come and visit us. Very few at the moment, but we did. The hotel is closed, but it's not closed 100%. We're actually still working. We still employ, we employ everybody. Everybody still kept their job. We have to do some little sacrifice in giving back to the company, part of our salaries in order to conserve cash. But the owners were very adamant in keeping every single person in their job. So when the hotel was open, there was no manpower to go and draw from. We didn't have many other hotels where we can do, okay, well, let's still poach a few people here, a few people there, and then we can open our hotel. No, it didn't work that way. And we didn't want to do it that way. We actually wanted to educate, our team members, our new team members, in order to understand what does it mean to serve guests, with very high expectations and work in a luxury environment. So I'm sure if you've been to Mexico in the past, you probably have an idea of the condition of, sometimes very basic condition in where some people in some villages lives. However, they're very hospitable, regardless of their condition. A Mexican person will tell you, come to my house. My house is your house. Mi casa, tu casa. So they invite you in the house, no matter what. They will offer you what they have. If it's one tortilla and some beans, that's for them is hospitality. And to me, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that they can be as hospitable as that are in the house when a guest is coming to visit them. Whether it's a cup of coffee or a tortilla with some beans, doesn't matter. But we have the most genuine people in the world, I think. And they are really genuine. They really serve from the heart. They really mean it. So our guests that they love completely, our team members, they all want to take them with them, which is obviously another problem that I need to manage sometimes. But yes, it was challenging. But now we have a team of over 250 people, and they're all very, very committed. And yes, we continue to talk to them like Peter is doing, for example, through Facebook. We created just a Facebook group. We didn't feel there was a need to create a new application because there are already so many out there. So we created a Facebook group, and we have about 200 team members in this group, which is obviously some of them, they don't have a smartphone. They don't know how to use social media yet. And that's how we communicate. So every day there is a video posted by myself or by another manager from another area. Sometimes we list all our values, the company mission and vision statements. And we keep the team engaged all the time because we've been away from each other for 2 months nearly. And obviously, away from the eyes, away from the heart as well. So we don't want to lose them. We need to keep them engaged, and it's working very well.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned that majority of your guests are from Mexico, so the domestic market. How do you keep in touch with or maybe first question is, what portion are your returning guests who has been traditionally coming to your hotel? How many percent is that roughly?
Returning guests is very little. It's less than 10%. Oh. For some reasons. I personally, I think that we need to get away from returning guests to hoping to have a repeat business from the same guest. People are curious nowadays. They want to travel. They want to experience new stuff. They will not go 20 times in the same hotel. For God's sake, unless you have a problem. There are so many beautiful things in the world. You don't want to go and see the same hotel. There might be a generation or there might be a segment that they are more attached. But I think that the new traveler, and everybody's talking about the millennial travelers. Forget it. I'm not expecting a millennial traveler to come back 20 times. I'm lucky if they come maybe twice, or if they come the first time, they love it, and then maybe for a special anniversary or something, they will come back. But our hotel is a celebration hotel. It's a place extremely special, that you go there to celebrate something big. Something like a milestone birthday or a family gathering, and it's not something that you will do every day. Besides the price that we charge as well, it's not for all pocket.
Yeah.
But with the Mexican guests, we actually have, there is a huge market in Mexico. So definitely, there are the ones, and we keep in touch with them because many of them we know personally. So I even have the mobile phone. So some of them, they send me a WhatsApp and say, "Hey, Rocco, how are you doing? When are you opening? I really want to come back. I need a break now." So Mexican guests, they will be obviously the more frequent, returning guests.
Yeah.
And we also obviously have other means like newsletters, where we inform our guests of the updates. For example, we even sent pictures of the progress, for example, because we've been doing a lot of maintenance, during these times where we normally we don't have the time to enter certain areas of the resort because of guest frequency. And so now is a great opportunity for us to go to the spa and do painting and and cleaning, and we can make noise. So we have no disturbance whatsoever at the moment. So we also update them with everything that is done at the resort through these medias.
Okay, very good. I just noticed also that you have the bee farming and you're growing some vegetables. So is that part of some sort of a sustainable project you have, or how big role does that kind of play in the way your resort is set out?
The last collection of honey was about 2.5 kilograms. 2.5 kilograms may last you maybe for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So in order to make it sustainable 100%, you really need to have a lot of bees.
Yeah.
And to make it like industrial. We are not at that level yet, but we obviously help, instead of buying 100%, we buy maybe 80%. Same with the fruits and vegetables. You can only produce so many salads. If you have 100 people and 100 people ask you for salads, it's one piece of salad. And, that means you need to have 1 acre of land only for salad, and then another acre of land for fruits, and another acre of land for zucchini, for example. So it's labor intensive to do farming and to be sustainable 100%.
Yeah. Do you have
but yes, we do provide obviously part of the production for daily consumptions.
How about what kind of, do you have projects which are related to charitable causes, which are to help because your staff are from the local community, some sort of them to support them in a certain way? Are they? I mean, they are. I was in Thailand for many years, so we had different kind of helping out some orphanages, or we were inviting kids to come over to the resort to see how we operate, and all kinds of these kind of activities so that community building activities. Are there anything you can share with us on that front?
Sure. We used to do obviously more things before when the hotel was open and when there were no restriction as such. So we used to work with the 2 local schools in Chocholave, which is our village, where the resort is set, which is about 3 kilometers away from the hotel. And we basically, there was a once every 2 months visit of a group of our team members, doing some painting in the school, teaching them how to do, for example, a little farm in the house. And we invite students, from different schools, from elementary schools up to universities on a monthly basis so they can visit. They can attend a short conference, which is done by me or by another other manager. So we do something for the community, but we also believe strongly that charity begins at home. And for us, charity is first with our team members. There is no point for a company investing and giving away money to another organization before thinking, what about my team members? And particularly now is even more important. I will never feel comfortable to, proudly say, we are supporting XYZ company, and this is our charitable effort, and looking at 250 people that I had to tell them, for the next foreseeable future, you will not get any service charge, and I will need to unfortunately do a cut on your salary of X%.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to do charity outside of your own company at the moment, and that's how we took it. We decided to do charity at home to make sure that we can do everything possible to preserve every single job in the company.
Yeah, I think that's wise and that's reasonable. So good. Well, thank you very much for those answers, and then over to you, Abid.
Rocco, you've been communicating with your guests. Can you share what kind of questions your guests are asking relative to operations of the resort, how their expectations might have changed?
The national market, Mexican are very cool people. I'm not expecting Mexican to feel uncomfortable, if they don't see an housekeeper cleaning every 5 minutes. That's not what they expected, because that was expected already before. We cannot say now our hotel is very clean. So what before was not clean. I cannot imagine paying $1,000 a night and going into a dirty hotel. That's not expected. That's for sure is not. So our guests, I guess, they expect the same level of cleanness with more frequency. That's it. I don't think they expect people to go there with the fumigate everywhere and so on and so forth. Yes, there is an expectation in general, which we need to comply. From a law point of view, from a legal point of view, we need to comply, because the government is telling us, you need to do this. You need to wear a mask. You have to wear gloves and face shield and whatever. You need to do every 30 minutes, you have to go and wash your hand and so on and so forth. So we will comply to what the regulations are, because it's a legal part. But from our guest point of view, not a single person asked me, hey, Rocco, are you going to wear gloves and masks? Nobody. They all want to come back. They all want to experience our hotel as it was before. So yes, there will be obviously some precaution that we will take regardless. We used to do them before. Now we're going to do them better. But we will not stop providing a clean environment and a healthy environment to both our team members and our guests.
Fantastic, Rocco. Thanks for sharing that. There are several other questions, but I'm going to bring our next guest on, but please stick around and we'll come right back to you. So from a very sprawling resort environment to a very dense area of New York City, let me welcome Chris Rynkar, who is the general manager of Renaissance New York Chelsea. Welcome to Hospitality Talks, Chris.
Thanks, Abid. Appreciate that. It's great to be here. First, Rocco, when I get a chance or when they allow me, I'm coming to visit you. You're really a great salesman to your property. It sounds excellent. So, and Peter, having gone through 2 openings in a matter of 3 months, I know what you're going through. So hang in there. It's an overwhelming experience by itself, notwithstanding a pandemic. So good luck. But yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us, Chris. You ended up closing a hotel in a couple of months after the opening. So you're going to go through a second opening, hopefully sooner than later. Tell us what that experience was like, opening a hotel only to shut it down a couple of months later.
Sure. I was joking a little bit yesterday with you that, I hold the record in New York City for having the quickest opening and closing of a hotel ever. But, it's certainly unexpected, and, I think that we had our soft reopening on May 16th. So right now we are open to first responders. So, we're slowly but surely reopening. And, I think that it certainly was difficult, having gone through the process of opening the hotel on February 7th, with all the excitement surrounding the opening and, bringing all the team members on board and just getting the doors open the first time around. It's a huge, long process. And, to kind of go through that. And then a month later, a pandemic to occur and all of a sudden having to lay off team members and having those difficult conversations and, shutting the door, shutting the building down, it's certainly challenging situation. But, it's one of those things where it's challenging for everyone. So, I think that, having the discussions with the team members and, continuing discussions as well and staying in touch, has helped a lot. I think everybody was very, understood the situation right away. And, it was, I think everybody really was just more concerned about each other's safety and each other, I think together we'll get through it. And, we're, like I said, we're slowly but surely reopening the doors here. We crawling up to about 30% now with first responder business and, starting to bring back some of the team members. Right now, we're still a skeleton crew. We have about five full-time members right now. So excuse me if I have to run and check somebody in at the desk. But I think that that's going to be the environment. We're going to wear a lot of different hats, and that's just going to be it for a little while. I think that we're all going to have to adjust to that new environment. And, I think that accept it really, what our normal day was, in February or January is no longer. It's, it's changed. And I think that the quicker that we accept it and the quicker that we as leaders show that we're doing different things and wearing different hats, team members will follow along and accept it as well and be comfortable with it. So
absolutely. Chris, of all the destinations, at least that I'm aware of, New York being the entertainment capital of the world, and New York is possibly the most resilient market that I have ever come across. Now, you were there during 9/11 time period, and you going through this COVID-19. New York was ground zero for this within U.S. area. Tell us if there are any similarities between the two situations of 9/11 and COVID-19, or how do they differ?
Sure. Certainly two very different situations on the onset. I was just starting my career actually, when 9/11 occurred, and it just really trying times and really sad times. And and there are some similarities. It's certainly there. It's sad. A lot of the stories that you hear out there now, and I think that where the similarities really occur is in the recovery process. I'm hearing a lot of the things now that I heard post 9/11, where we'll be back. New York is that resilient city where people always want to come to it. People always want to see the attractions that we have, experience the nightlife that we have, experience the culture that we have. So you talk to some of the first responders who were first responders during 9/11, and they're very encouraging. They'll tell you, they're like, we've been through it. We're going to come back. And you're starting to see signs already. I watched over the hotel during the closure in April and stayed here most of the time, and the streets were a ghost town, and it was a little bit surreal out there. And now you're starting to see the streets fill up again. It's not quite what it was, but I would say about 50% capacity right now. People walking around, especially now that the weather's getting nice. So you're starting to get back to some sort of normal, I guess. But I think that's the biggest thing that will cause our bounce back is the attitudes that we have in New York. Is that, hey, we've been through it. We're tough. We're gonna make it through again, and we'll be better for it. Is the attitude, and again, I think from the start, it's going to be very domestic travel that'll be coming in. Just for the mere fact that there's international is still very restricted. But I think that will rebound as well. It may not be this year, maybe next year, but again, people want to come here. It's still going to be a premier destination, and we'll continue to work with the CVBs and the marketing firms just to make sure that message is out there that, hey, we're reopening, we're going to be back, and we'll be better. So we're excited for that.
Chris, you opened a hotel under normal demand scenarios a couple of months ago, shut it down. You were about or starting to reopen the hotel. Which scenario have you found more challenging? How is it that you are having to adapt this second coming, if you would?
That's a good question. Opening a 340-room hotel in the middle of Manhattan it's got its unique challenges. So the first time around, was pretty tough. But and I thought, all right, great. When the doors open, I'll take a little vacation. I promised my wife, my kids that we would take some time. So they're still waiting for that, obviously. But I think that it's just different. I think that now when we opened the first time, we had lots of staff. We had Marriott support staff in the hotel. We had a lot of media, PR buzz going on. So just a lot of different aspects to it. A lot of inquiries with sales and all that. Now, I think the first time was more about highlighting, this new property in Manhattan, getting the staff excited about it, turning on all our systems, getting the customer service to that peak, level where we needed it. Now I think it's a little bit different in that it's a little more, let's figure out how we're going to operate. Let's figure out, how we're going to get the rooms cleaned and sanitized, disinfected, and make sure that, our team members feel safe coming in the building and our guests feel safe coming in the building. Again, it's not that we're, taking off gangbusters with business. So we have to operate smartly too. Now it's, we can't, whereas before, you had, a person for a certain responsibility duty. Now you have one person for several responsibilities and duties. So, trying to figure that out. And, I think, just helping the staff along too. I think it's really, everybody's charting new waters right now. So, making sure they feel comfortable with doing different things and kind of figuring out how you're going to operate. And then looking forward too, also, how are we going to drive that demand? I think prior to the crisis, demand was there. Granted, we have a lot more inventory, like Peter was saying, similar to his situation, a lot of inventory in New York City over the last several years. I think it's up to 130,000 hotel rooms. So, but the demand was still going up with it. The international demand continued to uptick. Rates were going down a little bit, but still you had plenty of demand. But now it's a different ballgame. Now it's about, demand has dropped. And there's still, some, I'd say about 50% of our comp set is still closed. But once they start opening, there's going to be a lot of inventory. So you got to figure out, strategize. Okay, so what are we really going to go after? What segments are we going to go after and plot? Versus, trying to manage the demand prior because you have so much demand coming in. So, you're almost picking and choosing. Now it's like, now we got to put our sales hat on and really go after what's out there. And it'll be a very competitive environment, once things start going back. So, we're trying to strategize on, what's going to make sense for us at this point.
One last question before I turn it over to Sam. New York demand, I believe, will come back. It's just a matter of, again, much like all around the world, we just need to be able to gain consumer confidence. You talked a little bit about the supply side of things. How do you think COVID-19 would have impacted New York market from supply perspective? A lot of the Airbnb type facilities that were available, do you think they'll come back online? Do you think all the hotels will come back online, or some of them will be used for other uses? Any thoughts on that?
Sure. You mentioned Airbnb. Airbnb, I think, was 40,000 room nights on any given night, prior to the crisis in the New York City market, which is a lot. I mean, that's, almost a quarter of the inventory. So it certainly had an impact. It was always hard for us to measure what kind of impact that was. They're not reporting necessarily on star reports or anything like that. So, but I think it, certainly did, and it had an impact on high leisure areas, whether it was the New York City Marathon or periods where high leisure demand was in there. So I think that, people will be a little more hesitant probably to go into somebody else's home at this point. I think that, they're going to look for trusted name brands. They'll look for, things that they can count on that, will be safe and clean environments. So it'll be interesting to see how that, really, Airbnb gets impacted. I know there was a back and forth prior to, with between the New York City hotel market and Airbnb, and, whether it was really operating within the guidelines prior. So it'll be interesting to see how that factors back in after we kind of get through this. But the other point that you bring up is just as far as hotels opening and how they're going to open. I think we're seeing it already. We had in the news the Edition, which just opened in Times Square, 400 plus room hotel is closed. Sounds like it could be permanently. So that's pretty eye-opening to hear that. And I think that you'll hear that unfortunately a little more. I think hotels are looking for other options too, long-term options, maybe housing, looking for organizations that want to house past 30 days, individuals. So, I think that, certainly, people will be looking for space business without the lack of convention and group business. We're really not expecting group or convention to be back until Q4, possibly next year. And, I think even if it comes back at the end of this year, it's going to be small groups. It'll be small corporate groups, not necessarily the big conventions that a lot of, our big box hotels live off, and that's a scary thing. You have a lot of these big box, hotels in Times Square that, 1,000 plus rooms, 500 plus rooms, and they're going to have a lot of inventory. And, without some of these conventions coming in, they'll be grabbing a lot of that transient demand as well. So, I think even airline business, things like that, airline blocks, where in Manhattan, you may not have wanted to go after that business, but that's something that you would consider. And, I tell my sales folks, hey, listen, all options are on the table. Let's consider everything, and let's see what's out there, especially this year. I think it will be important for us.
I think the remainder of this year is going to be making the best of the current situation, but things will bounce back. I'm very optimistic that things will bounce back, and hopefully it'll happen sooner than later. Sam, over to you, please.
Thank you. Well, Chris, I have all the admiration and respect for what you're going through. I cannot imagine what it is like, and it's really admirable how you handled this yourself. So just all the best on everything you're doing, and for the future for you and the team and the hotel, and especially your family, who has to also live this through with you through your professional life. But I have a question, like how has Corona helped you to make the right choices? Because I think you this period, and you end up doing different choices than you would have normally done. Is there anything you'd like to share with us on this?
I think, and thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words. I think that, staying more connected, even though it's kind of weird, you're very distant, physically, but I think it's kind of forced us to almost stay more connected through things like, Skype or LinkedIn or whatever it is, our social media has forced us to stay more connected with our families, and I think with our, our associates. I feel like within our corporate offices, we've had, our online stand-ups, and it's interesting. You may not run into somebody in our corporate office for several months at a time. But now we're having weekly stand-ups, and those interactions have really kept me going. Just helping each other out. It kind of staying, even though you're not physically seeing people, it's so important just to stay connected, see them. We all joke, about people growing their pandemic beards, or just things like that. I think that is something that, whereas in prior, I kind of dreaded the online, video meetings and video chats, but now it's kind of a new way of life, and I think it's good for me. It's staying connected with everybody, personally and professionally has really helped.
Yeah, very good. What have you learned about yourself during this period? I mean, not what have you learned about the Corona period, but maybe sort of just in reflection, because I think it touches everyone in so many ways that just anything you want to share about what has what have you learned about yourself during this period?
Sure. I thought that my first opening was challenging, and I think just being able to persevere, through the couple months that we were closed, I think that was the most difficult period, to be honest with you, is just being in an empty hotel, and staying positive about things. And hey, listen, you have some good and bad days, and fortunately, my family and my wife, kept it all positive. And I have 3 small kids at home, so my wife, I joke, she had it rougher than I did with 3 kids during a lockdown. So just staying positive, just keeping it back in mind, like what we talked about in the beginning of the conversation, that just being resilient, and that New York will bounce back, the hotel will bounce back. It's going to be different for sure, but just keeping that positive attitude. And then as a leader, it's just so important now that I'm starting to bring back some of the team members, just every day, bringing that positive attitude. Hey guys, we'll get through this. We're and we're starting to see some of the guests come back too. And I think that's also been very uplifting too, is seeing the guests come through the door, and they understand the guests are coming through, and our restaurants are closed, our rooftop is closed, our pool's closed, so there's not much amenities going on in the hotel right now. And they understand. They're not complaining that the rooftop isn't open. They understand, they get it. And they're just glad that they have a place to come to, and you'll be surprised, people are coming to us for various reasons, and they completely get it. So that, I think that pushes us along as well, just seeing the customers starting to come back through the door, and their attitudes towards things have been very positive, and their response has been very, very positive as well so far.
Yeah. In terms of your guest mix, I don't talk about segmentation, but more about whether it's couples or friends or families. What are the sort of a mix are you expecting now for the summer period whenever you're opening?
Yeah, I think, very much domestic. I think, it's going to be people that are just ready to get out of their house. It's going to be people in the tri-state area that, are doing staycations, will drive to the city just to get a day or two away from the house, away from maybe the kids. I think that, when I talk to people, they're just ready. People are ready to be done with the quarantine. And so, what we'll do is, I think, our focus will be towards that local traveler, the traveler that may want to come into the hotel and may not want to leave. They may want to stay in the hotel and maybe just, sit up on the roof and, have a couple drinks or, bite to eat. And, so we're looking at how we can self-contain the hotel. I mean, in all honesty, we're not sure when a lot of the attractions will really open. It sounds like it's going to be more fall. So there's not going to be a whole lot going on to do. Typically, when you come into Manhattan, we don't see our guests most of the time. They go out and that's it. We see them at night and we wave to them. But now it's going to be a little bit different. We'll operate where they may stay in the hotel the entire time, and we'll have to just kind of adapt to that. And we're fortunate. We have about 5,000 square feet of outdoor space. So I think that will be very key as well. And, I know a lot of people are a lot more comfortable in that social setting now in an outdoor space. I know I am personally, and I think that we'll promote that, and that will be key for us as well, is that, hey, we have a spot where you can come and, sit outside, read a book, whatever you want to do, and not leave the hotel. And, I think, that's part of it. We're trying to give people a reason to come, but I think our focus, for this year certainly will be domestic. The domestic traveler, local traveler, the driving traveler.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for all those answers. And over to you, Abid.
Chris, can you help us understand how the brands have supported the efforts from downtime to reopening, and what is it that the Convention and Visitor Bureau are doing to gain consumer confidence?
Sure. So I think, I think it took I think the brands, took some time to really consider, what their reaction was going to be and how they were going to handle this. But now I think they're starting to get ahead of it a little bit. And, speaking, on my personal opinion with Marriott, and, I feel that, they've really communicated well. And I think that their focus is really on guest and associate safety, which I think is key. I think that they'll be the main ones to get that message out to our customers that, hey, this is what we're doing. These are the steps we're taking. Marriott started a cleanliness council, and they started putting out the guidance, of the various things that we're doing in the hotel. And quite honestly, a lot of things, we've always done. We've always, used certain high-level disinfectants and, stuff like that. But now, it's just so key that it's kind of out there, I think Rocco kind of was mentioning it now, maybe it's not a bad thing that, you see the housekeeper out and about, and it's one of those perception things where, you feel a little bit safer if you see somebody sanitizing the elevators. But yeah, the brand has kind of instituted we're coming up with a cleanliness plan on the property level that will be disseminated to all our associates and team members. And, it's something that just we'll put it on paper, really. A lot of the things that we're doing, whether it be having sanitation stations or, signage throughout the property about proper hand washing, gloves, masks, and that sort of thing. But, I think that ultimately, I think the customers will have a sense that they can trust the brands. They can trust the big brands like the Hiltons and Marriotts, that they'll do the right thing and that it will be a clean and safe environment. I think where I look at it almost twofold. You have a customer that you have the part where you want the customer and the team members to feel safe, and you're providing that sort of environment. But also, we're on the property level also figuring out how do we make it so the customer wants to come back, and what are we doing to really kind of drive that. So, hey guys, we're going to be clean and safe for you, but this is what we have, and this is our attraction to coming back and coming to visit New York and coming to visit our hotel.
Terrific. We'll bring everybody online, but one last question for you, Chris. You talked a little bit about New York's attraction, which is museums, dining places, Broadway, and all the other things that go on to making that destination what it is. In absence of all that, how would that destination position itself?
Yeah, no, it's, I think that, on the onset, over the next several months, I think it's going to be more positioned at, very much a level where, we may not have every single attraction open, but, I think that there will be certain attractions that you will still be able to go and visit, and it may be limited, it may be a little bit more restricted as to, how many people they let in a certain attraction. I know that they announced that the Museum of Natural History is planning to open in August, and the Met, I've heard different things. So I think there will be some attractions that will slowly but surely start opening, but it'll be a little different. I think that people will also have to have that, like I said, another reason to come. And I think it's going to be, to more just, kind of get it out of their current environments too. I think that, their current environments that they've been in for the last 2 or 3 months now, people are, they want to travel. Everybody I talk to is ready to travel. They're ready to get out of their house. They're ready to travel. And, quite honestly, you can still come to the city. You could still come in and stay in that hotel and not leave and have a good experience and, accomplish everything that you wanted to accomplish. I think that, as the city starts slowly up and opening up, the attractions will start to open. Again, it may not be everything at once, but I think there will be enough where, people will still deem coming to Manhattan, visiting us as something that they want to do.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for that insight. If I may ask a question of Peter. Peter, tell us some of the things that you're using to gauge success, and tell us how you are defining success in this environment.
Oh, I think in this environment, it's much about, of course, keeping your own motivation, showing that you have energy, but also being empathic with the people that surround you, understanding the perhaps new demands of clients. 100% occupancy will certainly be a success factor here, but probably not achievable over this summer. So therefore, we have to look at other things. And I mentioned previously engaging some other revenue streams, restaurants with direct access to the street or outdoor serving areas, which we thankfully have here, is what we are going to focus on going forward. But personally, I think I mean, as I said, I've been spending a lot of time dealing with the situation and trying to engage my team, involving them and bringing them news and updates. Even if I didn't have much news, really, I've just made a point out of connecting with people and telling them also that we are riding a storm here and we are in the middle of an ocean with high waves, and we're probably not going to see land for a long time to come. I think it's also important to be very frank and honest with how you communicate these days. Not paint a dire, dark picture, but also not try to paint it too rosy. I think it's important for everybody to know that the world is a bit uncertain for the next foreseeable time to come, and I think we all should be aware of that, certainly.
Well, true. We all lacking visibility, and we're going to make decisions with the best information available to us at this time. And it will continue to evolve over a period of time. Rocco, you've been able to retain most of your associates. Can you share some of the training efforts that you have implemented to keep the associates engaged, keep them motivated?
Sure, we have continued actually to do training as basic as how to open a bottle of wine and doing an assessment to a whiskey or tequila, for example. Even video conferences just like this one, where our suppliers were still keen to provide us with support and services. Even though they knew they were not going to sell anything for at least for the next couple of months. We do daily briefing. I mean, each department is doing their own daily briefing, through Skype or other video means, and that's the way you keep people engaged. I also, every time I find anything that is available online and is free, I share with everybody, because it's also important that people keep learning through applications that you have nowadays, or companies or university online university that they provide you a lot of things for free, and it's all available. It's all out there. Even YouTube provides you so much for free. Even this webinar is already learning for free, for maybe the more senior people, but that's another way to learn. I'm learning also from my colleagues over here. That one way for me to get ready is also to understand how Europe is getting ready, how Asia is getting ready, how Japan is getting ready. So I'm ready too, and I learn from everybody.
And you are so right. And that really is the basis of how this platform of Hospitality Talk was put together. It is truly a learning platform that we can learn from all around the globe, because at the end of the day, as an industry, we're dealing with similar things. Chris, if you're still with us, are you seeing any new technology initiatives that are being considered to be implemented while we learn to live with this virus?
Yes, I think we are. I mean, we're implementing things that we've already had. Things like mobile check-in and keyless, or people don't have to come and get their actual key cards. So things like that we were using prior, we're certainly going to utilize going forward. I think certain things have started to come out. I know there was some discussion about hydrostatic sprayers that would disinfect the room that the housekeeping team would utilize. So things like that we're still considering, and the brand is still considering utilizing. I think really thank God for technology. I mean, that's really helped us can keep the economy moving. I mean, and it'll just continue to help us, and I think the more that we can see what's out there and things that we'll consider will continue to help us, I think, be able to conduct our business, once they start opening. So
terrific.
But yeah, there's definitely some things that are coming out. I think that the one challenge that I see coming up with it is that we're still learning what, about the disease. We're still learning how to react to it. CDC comes out with different guidance, it seems like, on a weekly basis. So we're trying to adapt to that as well and seeing what will fit.
Fair enough. We approaching the end of it. As a matter of fact, quite candidly, we considerably run over the session. Sam, were there any questions from our audience that need to be brought up at this point?
Well, we have on YouTube, we have Eik Brostbo, who actually more is focusing on the conference. But one of the questions that came up was that will the buffets be replaced in your hotels, or what is your approach to that? And maybe you can start with Chris. The buffets, are you going to replace them with some other way of serving, or the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then maybe we can get Rocco and Peter after that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that certainly will change. I think that we're continuing to reevaluate. There's two areas I think to consider with that is one is obviously the safety aspect of it. No longer are we're going to be able to share utensils or serving spoons and whatnot. So that's certainly one aspect of it. The other is too just the cost perspective. I think that now that we're seeing that we're not quite at the occupancies that we are and the rates we are, I think that no longer can we have the buffet with 6 different omelet stations. So I think that that will continue to be reevaluated. I don't know for at least my operation, I'm not sure we're quite there yet or what we're going to do in that aspect, but I know that Marriott has delivered some guidance on it as well, so we're trying to work in the constraints of what the guidance they delivered. And there will definitely obviously have to be some sort of option. It just will be changed to consider the safety and the cost aspects of it, I think, in the future.
Yeah. And how about you, Rocco? Will the buffets be replaced in your hotel or resort?
Just 1 second. Thankfully, we don't do buffet in our hotel, so we don't have this problem. We only have like a.
That's good.
So we occasionally do for smaller groups. Sometimes we have like 20, 30 people that they come as a group, and or maybe there's a buyout of the hotel. It's like a family reunion. And we used to do like food sharing, in terms of like a smaller table where you have croissant, for example, but only for breakfast. Lunch and dinner always was a set menu. But yes, this is not really something that I need to worry about at least for the moment. Maybe if one day the hotel will become a 200-room hotel, maybe.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, thank you for that. And how about you, Peter?
It's certainly something we look at and discuss. Just like Chris was hinting. So the service utensils, people don't want to share them. Giving plastic kind of fork for everybody, or whatever, any kind of one-use item to serve themselves from the buffet, I also don't think is an option for us in our sustainable world and our sustainable profile here. So we'll have to rethink it, or we are rethinking it. And just like Chris, we don't really have all the answers yet. We're in the process. We also have to follow some guidelines from our government. It's not prohibited to serve a buffet here at the moment. People are doing it. I've seen in Sweden TV things from Sweden where actually journalists, they were helping themselves to a buffet because that was perfectly normal. But we are looking into it. So I cannot say we're gonna not have them, but it's not something that we're gonna now make a selling point, I think. So let's see where that ends.
Yeah. But I think end of the day, the customer will make the decision whether they're comfortable of using a buffet and because I think that's so many new things that will be learned from after what has happened with this period, that many ways some of those what was taken for granted will have to change because of the customer will expect this from us.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, Abid, shall we do some? You have a question you want to add, or are we moving into the feeling good story part?
I think we have run this session over a little bit, so let's go to our typical way of ending our session, where we want to end it on a positive note. We've talked about a lot of changes that are coming about in the industry, but would love for you to share some positive feel-good stories that you might have. And Chris, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the positive feel-good story I would say is, probably the best day I had over the last 3 months, was opening the doors again. I actually took some pictures of selfies of myself removing the padlocks and taking everything off. And, you have neighbors coming by when it's nice out. I'll keep the front doors open. And, you have neighbors coming by and just giving us a thumbs up. Hey, guys, glad you're open. It's good to see something open again. I'm definitely going to come back. I'll definitely eat there. I'll definitely stay with you guys. That sort of thing that keeps me going, and certainly having first responders, people that are still, responding to that crisis, you see them come back weary and, being able to help them every day, and just give them a place, a quiet place they can sleep and get some rest. That's important for me. And, I think makes me feel good. And, so yeah, it's things are starting to move again.
Fantastic. Rocco, would you share something that you have found really unique in the industry and something that is uplifting?
Sure. I can share two stories. The first one you should ask me in about 3 hours, when I get the news on our reopening day. And the second one I'd like to share, which is something that I've been doing even prior to this timing. But I think that is our duty as well to help as many people as possible out there. There are millions and millions of people at the moment jobless. And one of the things I do, for example, or at least within my network, when I see an opportunity, I share with the people immediately, So it doesn't stay in one place, it shares with, of course, poor hotel or general manager will get maybe 10,000 CVs, but at least everybody get a chance. I think everybody deserve a chance, and we as a leader, we also need to help others as a part of our commitment.
Terrific. Well, thank you for doing that. I'm sure that is greatly appreciated, because there are hundreds of thousands of people that are unfortunately unemployed these days. So any bit of help is greatly appreciated. And last but certainly not least, Peter, anything from Copenhagen?
Yeah, absolutely. And also on different levels. A couple of hours ago, I was looking at some craftsmen putting in some great new fixtures in our lobby to be. And that was great. That's always nice when you're in this process of having things coming together. Another uplifting thing was a long queue of cars on the traffic light at my local corner this morning. For the first time in a long time, I saw plenty of cars on the street, and that felt good that many people were going to work on a Wednesday morning. And thirdly, and probably for us here, more important, I spent quite some time with my sales team the last couple of days. And together with one of the girls, we were having a meeting with a couple of young guys who want to do a large conference here in mid-October in excess of 500 people. Now, needless to say, we need some government blessing and all that lifted with directions to pull through with that. But it's great that people are having the desire to still look at venues for things in such a short time from now. So that was probably my pocket highlights here from Copenhagen.
Fantastic. Well, before I turn it over to Sam to close, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chris and Rocco. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing all the insight as to what you are going through on the ground with your teams, with clients, with all stakeholders. It is really appreciated. Thanks to all of our viewers for joining us on different platforms. We look forward to having you back on Friday when we come back on the air with another group of general managers from different parts of the world. Thanks again. Over to you, Sam.
Oh, thank you very much, Abid. If you like these kind of discussions, you just look over here. You will see a video which will be one of our earlier episodes, particularly on YouTube, where we are interviewing the chief operating officer from Centara Hotels in Thailand. He had a lot of things interesting to share. And also there's another video coming up here on YouTube, which is about the Caribbean. And I'm sure you will enjoy hearing what the Sandal Resort is doing. So for the YouTube viewers, that's a way you can learn more about what kind of episodes you can see here in Hospitality Talks. So just subscribe and then press that bell to get notified when we are next for the next show. And in the next show, in fact, will be this in the next couple of days. And also for the LinkedIn viewers, thank you very much for joining us, and also all the replay viewers. And if you want to be notified about when we are going live again, look out for those very nice postings that Abid puts up about the next show, and also just follow my personal profile, Sam-Erik Ruttmann, and that's where we're going live. So with these last viewers, thank you very much, and best of success to all of our guests this time, and we'll see you in the next couple of days.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great meeting you all.